Hi, I'm Jillian, and you are listening to The Mindset of Podcasting, where we not only talk about the technical side of launching and managing your podcast, but also about building your confidence in yourself and the power of your voice. Your business and your podcast depends so much on your mindset. So I will be diving deep into the mindset blocks and issues that we go through when starting and running your own podcast so you can feel confident in your message and in your voice. It's time to listen in and feel confident about yourself and your podcast. Welcome back to the Mindset of Podcasting. Today we are talking about how to use social media to get more listeners to your podcast, which is the whole goal of our podcast. And I am so glad to be back podcasting weekly again. My episodes will be coming out weekly again. I've missed podcasting. I love it. I love talking to people and hearing their reactions to the episodes. So I'm so glad to be back. So back in August, I know that was like 2 months ago, but I went to a speaking event and I was a speaker there. I was speaking on Podcasting 101, the benefits, why you should start one, who should start one. And I was very nervous. I'm not a speaker like in front of people. I can speak podcasts like this because 1,000 eyes aren't staring at me. It wasn't 1,000. There was like 50 people in the room, but still, it was so nerve-wracking. So that morning I got to the event early. I stayed at the hotel overnight that the event was at. And that morning I checked out of my hotel room, took my suitcase to the trunk of my car, put it in the trunk of my car, never got in my car. That's important later. And went back into the event. And as I'm getting set up, I wasn't speaking till the afternoon. So I was excited to relax all morning, network, get to know people, go see all the vendors. And as I was about to go see all the vendors, I checked my back pocket, which is where I put my phone, and it was gone. So I went searching through, I had my laptop bag with me. So I went searching through that bag, couldn't find it. I searched under the tables. I searched where I walked. I went back through the whole hotel. I even went back and got the key so I could go back to my room and searched my whole entire room there. I went out to my car because I had gone to my car and put my suitcase in the trunk, searched all around there, searched in the trunk, couldn't find it. I was freaking out because I was in New Jersey, which was about a 4-hour drive. So first, my phone was my GPS. So I didn't know how to get home. Second, I have a lot of things on my phone. We have pictures. Our phones, unfortunately, are kind of a lifeline right now. So I was freaking out all morning. I spent the first hour of the event going all over that hotel where I had eaten breakfast, back to my room multiple times, back out to the car multiple times. I emptied my suitcase in the car. Nothing. I could not find this. So I got somebody else's phone and I called my husband, and we have Life 360 so he could see where I'm at. I'm like, will you look up and send me a screenshot of where it says my phone is at? So he sends me a screenshot and it says it's where the car is parked. I'm like, I have searched this whole car already. So I went back out, and of course my phone is on silent. So even calling it is not going to work. I have a watch. It was on silent. So because I turned it on Do Not Disturb before I went down to the event because I didn't want it to ring or anything while somebody else was speaking. So back out to the car, back out to emptying my suitcase, still can't find it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to move the car. And then if it moves, I know 100% it's at least in the car because I thought maybe it was in the hotel somewhere. Somebody had picked it up. I don't know. So I moved the car and then called him again, and he sent me a screenshot and my phone had moved with the car. Which is weird because I'm like, I didn't even get in the car. All I did was put my suitcase in the car. So all morning, freaking out, could not enjoy the event at all. Lunch came. I went back out to the car to do a deep search. I dumped everything out of my suitcase. And this time I picked up the suitcase. And that is where I heard a kaplunk. And my phone was under the liner. So you know how you have those traveling suitcases and the handle pops up so you can reel it? That's what I had. And apparently when I put my suitcase in the car, my phone had fallen out of my back pocket down into that handle area behind the lining. So that's why I didn't see it when I emptied my suitcase the first time. I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you kidding me? So I couldn't enjoy the whole event. It did mess me up as a speaker too because I got up there and I was still flustered because I just wanted to have a fun event and network with people. And I feel like I didn't get to talk to anybody. I didn't get to really enjoy it. I felt like my speech wasn't 100% because I was just stressed and anxious. And I still was even after I found my phone because it was just a very hectic morning. And then I still had a 4-hour drive after my speech. So I got to decompress a little bit during the 4-hour drive, even though I got stuck in an hour bumper to bumper traffic in New Jersey. Not a fan of driving in New Jersey, but anyways, I'm not sure what the lesson was here or why I lost my phone. Some people were saying, maybe it's because you were meant to be off of it and really enjoy the event, but I didn't get to enjoy the event because I was stressed and anxious. So I don't know, maybe it's to keep better track of my phone. Don't put it in my back pocket or something. I don't know, but lesson learned. My phone will be in my bag, never in my pocket. I will know where it is at all times when I go out of town. So now let's get to the topic at hand, because this is why you are all listening to the podcast, is you want to know how to use social media to get more podcast listeners. So here are my thoughts on this subject, is that you need to have a social media to promote your podcast. Most of the time, people do not go into a podcast app searching for specific topics or anything. Once in a while they do. Yes, they do. I will give you that. But most of the time, I know for me, I find podcasts through social media, especially Instagram. When you share your audiogram or your reel or something from your podcast, if I find it intriguing, then I go over to my podcast app and search for your podcast. So I think social media is huge in promoting your podcast, and that you definitely need to use it to get more listeners. So let's talk about what you can do on social media to get more listeners to your podcast. Now, most of these are going to be for Instagram, because that's my main focus when I do my promotion, but you can adapt this to Facebook or TikTok or wherever you promote your podcast. LinkedIn, you can repurpose these for all of them, every single account. If you have a bunch of social media accounts, go for it. Repurpose it everywhere. So my favorite thing to do is to create either an audiogram or a reel. Now, an audiogram is where you take a clip of your podcast and put it over a graphic, so that on Instagram, when it pops up, they see the graphic and they can hear a section of your podcast. Now, you want to take a clip that is intriguing, that makes them want to listen, that maybe gives them some tips or something of value in that audiogram, but also leaves them wanting more. And I know that can be hard to do, but take like a juicy part of your podcast episode and use that as a clip. Or if you video record it, use it as a reel. Take that and use that as a reel. I think reels are amazing. I video record all my podcasts. I highly suggest you do, even if you don't use the video, just so you can take a reel of it. Because when people can see your face too, they really connect more. And reels, of course, do amazing. And you can repurpose that reel for TikTok. So definitely, I would say that would be, if you do anything else for promoting your podcast, that is definitely one of the main ones I would do, is either an audiogram or a reel. You can also create a quote graphic. Take a quote from your podcast, make a pretty graphic in Canva of it, and put that up. You can transcribe your audio. I use a program called Descript to transcribe my audio. And then I take a section of what I said and I use that as captions, maybe with a photo of me, and use that as a caption on there, and then tell them to go listen for more. You can also take that transcription, create a newsletter, create sections or all the tips that you had and make it a newsletter, send it out to your email list to promote your podcast episode. Talk about it in your stories. Get on the day that it comes out and say, hey, this is my podcast episode. This is what it's about. Go listen, and put the link in your stories. You can now put the link in your stories. So put it right in your stories. And here's a tip for the links. Don't just put Apple. Okay. I'm an Android user. I hate iPhones. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this because people are diehard iPhone people. I do not like iPhones. I had an iPhone for 2 years and hated it every second of it. I'm so good. I got a Google Pro now. I love my Google Pro. Oh my gosh. But so not everybody has Apple. And when you just put the Apple link, you are missing out on a bunch of listeners. So you can go to its pod.link, and that will make it so that it pops up, and then they can pick the platform that they want to listen to your podcast on. So that opens it up to more people who don't necessarily have iPhones. If you have guests in your podcast, please make sure that you are tagging them in the post. You are giving them anything that they can share with their audience too, because leveraging other people's audiences on social media is going to be so impactful. That is how you can get more listeners. When their audience hears that, oh, they were a guest on this podcast, they're going to want to go listen to that podcast. So make sure that you are tagging them as a collaborator or tagging them in stories, giving them the posts or the reels, the audiograms to share with their audience too, because that is a great way to get more people into your world. But the main point is you need to be using social media to promote your podcast. You can't just record an episode and tons of people are going to come listen to it. It's not going to happen. I always say, if you think you're talking about your podcast too much, talk about it a little bit more. People need to hear things like 7 to 10 times, is it, before they actually registers and they go and take action on it. So don't just promote it the day that it comes out. Promote it all week long until the next episode comes out. If somebody asks you a question and you did an episode on it, say, hey, I did this episode. This will really help you, and lead them to the episodes. These are great ways to answer people's questions too, especially if you did a whole episode talking about it instead of having to type it out or answer it again. Get creative and just use your podcast any way you can, and do promotion any way that you can on any social media platform that you use, because the more people who hear about it, the more they can go and listen to it. Now, I am just getting into TikTok. I've been doing it for a little bit now. I just did a TikTok challenge back in, oh my gosh, it's been almost a year. Wow, time flies. But I did a TikTok challenge where I did 5 videos a day for 30 days. That was a lot. Now I only do 1 video 6 days a week. Yeah, that was a lot to keep up with. But so I'm getting used to TikTok and stuff. And I have some tips for you from a TikTok expert, I would call her, Sarah Wise. She is amazing, and she's going to give us advice on how to use TikTok to grow your podcast listeners. How would you suggest that we get started with TikTok? Like, after we've downloaded the app, should we just go for it, just film?
That is a great question too. So I would recommend looking in the search option at other people in your niche. So like if you are a podcast manager, literally look at the keywords podcast manager, because TikTok is becoming, or it is already, a search engine as much as it is a social media platform. Like, it exceeded Google in 2021 as the most used platform.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Wild.
Yeah, that's crazy.
People are like going and like looking for those keywords. Or for example, like if you're searching like something else that you might talk about in your niche. So like for me, I might search for like TikTok trends or TikTok tips. Or if you're a candle maker, you might look up candle ingredients or candle maker. If you're a clothing maker, you might look up Cricut tips, right? Like all those keywords, and you're going to find so many amazing creators, right? And I'm not saying to copy what they're doing. You are going to form a community with them, and you're going to connect, and you're going to get inspiration from their video, and you're going to see, oh, these are the kinds of videos that hit well in the TikTok world, right? For the kind of business that I'm in, or the kind of brand that I have. And then 2, you start to form this community of creators that are doing what you do.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to do that when I get done with there. Yes. So how often do we need to be posting on TikTok?
Yes, the hard-hitting question. Okay, I have 2 answers. I have the save your mental health answer, and then I have the answer that is what has worked for myself and my clients when we're on the sprint to 1,000 followers. And I'm going to explain the sprint to 1,000 followers before I get into how often you should post. So if you're using TikTok for business, you most likely want to monetize the platform, right? Use it as a top of funnel strategy to eventually get people to convert and make money off of the platform. So you cannot put a link in your bio until you have 1,000 followers. And you can't go live on TikTok until you have 1,000 followers. But the link is the most important thing, right? Because you want to drive those people to wherever you want them to go, an email list, a landing page, maybe right to a checkout page for a low ticket offer. And we can't do that until we have 1,000 followers. So let's get into posting when you're on that sprint to 1,000. So I find that if you can swing it, posting 2 to 3 times a day, and again, it can be really like quick videos, maybe 30 seconds to a minute of you just like dropping a tip or two. And maybe one of the videos can be a behind the scenes of you setting up your workspace for the day. And then another video can be a trend, right? So you're not like reinventing the wheel. Okay, that's if you can swing it. But if that's not sustainable for you, then that's okay, right? I hear people say like, oh, what's this crazy amount that I need to post? Well, if that's not sustainable for you, then you need to do what works for you. Mm-hmm. So I always say, if you can just do one post a day, even just during the work week, so Monday to Friday, that is also good enough. Because as inorganic as this sounds, you are feeding an algorithm, right? Mm-hmm. And so the algorithm needs to know this person is giving me consistent content. So whether that means once a week whether that means once a day, 5 times a week, or if you're pushing out content 2 to 3 times a day, you need to be consistent. And then the algorithm will say, okay, they're giving me consistent content. Let me start pushing them out to people that I think would be interested in their content.
How, as podcasters, can we use TikTok?
That's a great question. Okay. So I have some do's and don'ts because I've seen some things that don't work for podcasters specifically. I'm going to get into the don'ts first because I feel like now your listeners are probably like, well, what shouldn't I do? Yeah. If you make like the pretty audiogram graphics that probably work on Instagram, those will not convert on TikTok because TikTok is very much like a face to camera or behind the scenes kind of platform, and graphics do not convert on there. So if you want to use a clip or a snippet from your podcast, I would either try and record yourself while you're recording your podcast, like with your iPhone or a camera, which is great practice anyway, because then you can repurpose it to YouTube or YouTube Shorts or idea pins or what have you. Another thing you can do is put that audio in the back of a behind the scenes video. So for example, like we talked about, like you setting up your workspace, maybe a video of you, like a phone to screen video of you editing, and like the editing software, people love seeing behind the scenes of that, but just not the graphics. Please, not the graphics.
That is good to know. Yes. Cause I do create the audiograms, but I haven't put anything of my podcast on TikTok yet. Cause I just wasn't sure, like, what should I put on there?
Yeah. And those do work well, like on Instagram, and you probably could, like, you could put those on Reels because graphics work on Instagram, but they don't work on TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Didn't I tell you she had the best advice? Like, I'm definitely going to try to implement this more so that I can continue to grow my TikTok audience. Thank you so much for listening. And I am back to weekly episodes, so I'm so excited about that. So if you would like more information, more behind the scenes stories and things like that, definitely go hop on my newsletter also. That comes out every Tuesday. And I give more behind the scenes stuff and things that are going on over there. I have an upcoming program coming up on how to launch your podcast successfully. It's called the Podcast Launch Solution. There is a wait list now. I will put that in the show notes, the link for that. We start October 16th. And I cannot wait. It's 4 weeks. We will have your podcast up and ready to go in 4 weeks. So you can have your podcast by the end of the year, or if you want to launch it in January, which is a great time to launch, we can get your podcast ready and all set up in 4 weeks. So that's ready to launch in January. So if you want more information on that, go to the show notes and get on the wait list for that. And I will be back next week. Next week, we are talking about why you should have a video podcast. I am very big into video podcasts. A lot of my clients are going to video podcasts, and I will explain the benefits of having one. So see you next week.